Remember in selecting feed for your horses that horses are natural grazers. Hay is the primary feed for horses, and depending on your geographic area, there will be many different available types of hay. Primary hay will probably be alfalfa. The hay should have lots of small leaves and have small to medium-sized stems. Avoid buying hay that is full of flowers, as hay flowers after its maximum nutrient peak. It's helpful to feed your horse a smaller amount of a feed like alfalfa that's high in protein and supplement with a feed like grass hay or oat hay so the horse can chew longer without becoming overweight. When using the processed hays such as the alfalfa pellet and the alfalfa cube, check closely for dust in the cubes, for any foreign objects. If possible, check ahead and find out what kind of minerals and nutrients were in the ground that the hay has been grown on before you bought it. Once you've decided on the particular type of grass hay, oat hay, or alfalfa hay that you'll feed your horse, you have other considerations like, do I need to grain my horse, or do I need to add supplements to the feed? It's very easy for horses to overload on grain. This can cause colic and founder, both very serious conditions in a horse and can be very life-threatening. Hay, whether it's in bulk form or processed form, is fed to horses by weight, not by volume. So check with the professionals in your area, ask them what type of horse you have and what type of feed you may need for that particular horse and that you're giving them, and then very carefully follow a schedule. Feed them around the same time every morning and every evening. When choosing a suitable home for your horse, remember that barbed wire is one of the most common causes of injuries to horses and should be avoided at all costs. Provide a safe environment, as this owner has done. Check your horse's area carefully for poisonous weeds and remove all trash such as cans, bottles, discarded fence or hay wire, old equipment, and used lumber with nails or broken ends. If you keep your horse in a wooden area, watch that he doesn't pick up the unhealthy habit of chewing the wood or cribbing. Paint chew stop on all wooden edges as a preventative measure. Stalls should be well ventilated, have good drainage, and bedding that is clean and dry. Wood shavings, sawdust, and straw are some of the beddings available. It's very important to clean your stalls or runs regularly. To not do so encourages parasite infestation, bad odors, and an increased fly problem. Cable fencing should be checked for fraying, sagging, or breaks that could inflict possible injury. Pipe fences should be constructed from heavy gauge pipe and have clean welds. Repair any sharp, jagged edges immediately. Notice the toys this thoughtful owner has supplied for this horse's entertainment. Exercise is a very important part of basic horse care and is a sound investment in your horse's health. If your horse is unable to run and play freely due to confinement, he will benefit greatly from a routine program of daily exercise. The unexercised horse becomes soft and his muscles and tendons are more easily injured. Hitching up the trailer correctly is the most important thing when it comes to safe trailering. If you are not absolutely sure of the process, by all means ask for help the first few times. You'll find various kinds of hitch locks, safety pins, and safety chains. Trailer hitches may look similar, but are all a little different. Trailering needs to be a safe and pleasant experience for your horse. You may want to blanket your horse for the trip. This depends on weather and type of trailer you're hauling in. Remember, totally enclosed trailers may get warm just from the horse's own body heat. There are different sizes of blankets, and one fitted incorrectly can slip off sideways or under a horse, possibly causing an accident. Become familiar with the type of fasteners on your blankets and fasten them securely before hauling or putting a horse in the stall with his blanket on. Leg protection is a must. Even if hauling a short distance or practicing loading, a horse can easily injure himself loading or unloading or by stepping on himself in the trailer. The tail wrap is optional unless you have a horse that braces himself on the safety bar or chain. The wrap will protect him from rubbing hair off during the trip. Until you've had some experience at loading a horse, or if he shows resistance to being loaded, ask a friend to help. Tempt your horse with a little grain in the manger, and he'll usually walk right in. Immediately fasten the butt bar or safety chain. Make sure that loading your horse is the last thing you do before leaving. A horse left in the trailer for long periods of time will become bored and may develop bad loading and hauling habits. To make his trip more pleasant, put his regular hay in the manger. Be sure to snap his halter to the trailer tie. The most important thing that you're going to teach your horse, whether you're leading him on the ground, mounting him, or riding him, is the verbal command ho or whoa. When you say whoa to your horse, what you mean is not stand still and walk off. What you mean is stop absolutely still and stand still until he has another cue. Make sure that you've practiced this with your horse and that he understands it before you begin mounting. Once he understands that, the next important step is to make sure that your horse is squared up under himself and ready for you to step on, so that you don't step on when he's strung out or all bunched up and pull him over sideways and knock him off balance. This horse is stretched out, and if I were to step on him, that's going to cause him some difficulty. I'm going to ask him to back up a little. Ho, 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 ho. Good. I want him standing square under himself where he can take my balance me as I step on. The next step is to put my off rein on the off side of my horse's neck, come up to meet it with the rein on my mounting side. I hold both reins with one hand, and I can also balance as I step up on the horse with this hand on his neck. Never do I throw my reins over my horse's neck and turn them loose and step on, because if I do this, my horse can become frightened or something can spook him and he can jump out from under me. I have no control. Before you mount, always check your cinch and make sure that it's tight enough that your saddle won't twist as you step on. You should be able to slip your fingers gently under your cinch and pull out just about 1/2 of an inch. You don't want it so tight that you're cutting your horse in half, but you don't want it loose enough that when you grab your saddle, pulls over sideways. So even if it's a little difficult to mount, I want to hold both reins in one hand, lay your hand right at the base of the horse's neck, just before your saddle blanket. You can hold on and brace on the horse's neck or pick up his mane with your reins to help yourself on. With your free hand, you reach down to your stirrup and turn it toward your mounting leg. Pick your left foot up and step into the stirrup. Reach up to the saddle horn with my free hand, pull myself towards the horse and right up into the saddle, right over the horse's withers, and straighten my saddle before I ride off. Now that you're ready to tie your horse, if you don't have a good secure hitching post, 3.5 to 5.5 feet deep in the ground, and you have to use some type of a fence to tie to, make sure that you always tie to the fence post and not to the crossboards. The crossboards are not sturdy enough to hold your horse if he becomes frightened and sets back. So go to the strongest part, feel your posts, make sure they're sturdy before you tie. Leave your horse about 2 feet of rope when you tie him. Ask him to come up just a little, and do your safety knot. You make one loop and pull the free end of your rope back in a loop, pull tight. It's called a safety knot because if your horse gets into trouble and sets back, you can just come up and pull the end of your rope and your knot is gone and your horse is free. After you've tied your safety knot, you have a lot of rope left over. You can pull that free rope into a loose loop through the end of your loop, even another loop. A horse standing tied can reach a hold of the end of the rope and just untie this himself. So, thread through and take the very end of your rope and put it through your last loop. That's called locking the loop. That way if the horse picks up on the end of the rope and pulls, it doesn't come undone. But if the horse gets in trouble, all you have to do is pull that out of your loop, and once again, your horse is instantly free. Whoa, good boy. Good boy. Practice stopping your horse by leading him with your bridle on or your halter on. Walk a few steps and tell him, whoa. If he doesn't stop when you tell him that, pull back on him and again tell him, whoa, whoa. Good boy. When he does something you've asked him to do, tell him he's a good boy or good girl and give him a pat or a stroke. He'll be much more willing to please you next time you ask. Whoa. Be sure that your horse knows what you want of him. Before you move out, smooch to him. Let's walk. Before you stop, tell him who. Then pull on your reins or then pull on your rope. You don't reach out, grab a hold of your horse, and then say who. Or walk off and pull him and then say. So think about it ahead of time, decide what you're going to do, and let your horse know what you're about to ask of him. When you're ready to back up, say back, and then push on him. Back, back, whoa, whoa. If he doesn't stop, then I touch him. But I give him a chance to do what I've asked him to do first. So maybe I want to walk out, I tell him, whoa, whoa, good boy, good boy. Depending on the type of horse that you've selected and the type of riding that you'll be doing, you may select an English saddle. Many tack shop owners are also qualified to help you select the saddle that will fit your horse and yourself. If a Western saddle will be your selection, you have many of the same considerations with a Western saddle that you do an English saddle. The saddle must fit the horse's back and also fit the rider. In fitting the horse's back, the saddle must sit comfortably on the horse's back, and there must be plenty of room between the withers and the fork of the saddle. Now that you've selected the type of saddle you'd like to use, you need to select the pad or blanket to suit your saddle and your horse. Remember in selecting a blanket or pad that it must fit the horse and the saddle. The most important thing is padding inside of the pads and construction of the pads. If you're going to use a pad, one pad will be enough for your horse. This particular type is called a cutback because it's cut away right over the withers of the horse and allows you to saddle your horse without putting pressure over the withers. A wool back or a fleece pad is a very comfortable pad for a horse's back and a good choice. If you decide to go with blankets instead of pads, you will probably need 2 of them. It's very important in blanketing your horse for saddling that you make sure your blankets are straight and don't have bumps or wrinkles in them to aggravate your horse's back. And now for the selection of your bridle. The kind of bridle that you choose will depend on the type of riding that you're doing and the degree of training of your horse. The English bridle most commonly used is the full cheek snaffle with cavesson. The Western bridle most commonly used is the O-ring snaffle. There are many other types of bits and headgear for horses, and as your expertise increases, you can make other selections. Never leave a horse in his pen with a halter on. When scratching his head, he can get a hoof caught or simply catch the halter on a protruding object and choke. Halter-related accidents can permanently damage or even be fatal to the horse. Catching a gentle horse is usually no chore, but there are a few basic rules that you need to remember, and they are: always let your horse know where you are by speaking to him and making yourself visible as you approach. Have your halter ready and your lead rope untangled. Approach the horse's left shoulder area. Tell him "whoa" and give him a gentle stroke. Slip the rope around his neck. Open the halter and invite him to put his head in by holding it below his nose. Be sure and adjust the halter comfortably on his head. Not so tight that he's restricted, yet not so loose that it hangs down or can be rubbed off. Check both sides of the halter for proper fit. Fold the lead rope, being careful not to coil it, and lead off walking beside the horse's throat latch area. A clucking sound is the verbal cue to let your horse know you are ready to move. Very often you'll see a person put a halter on, stick the tongue of the buckle into the hole of the halter, and leave it just like that to tie or lead their horse. You want to be very careful to always stick the end of your halter strap down into the bottom of your buckle. That way, if a horse is standing tied, he can't rub his head on the fence and just slip the tongue of the buckle right off, therefore losing the halter. Grooming horses accomplishes more than just a simple cleaning. It's an opportunity for the handler to give their horse an overall looking over for injury, for general condition, and for attitude. In grooming your horse, always groom with the lay of the hair, or the direction that the hair is growing. If a horse is pretty dirty and muddy, you'll need to use a rubber brush to knock the top dirt off. If he's simply a little dusty, then a nice soft brush will do. In grooming your horse in preparation for riding, the most important part to groom is the saddle and girth area. Just make sure that there's no dirt and grime on his back that can cause sores under saddle or girth area. Be sure when you groom your horse to clean his tail very well. Sometimes horses get knots right at the end of their tailbone. This causes a horse's tail to become sore, and he backs up and rubs his tail hair out. Remember that horses are a lot like people in that some have sensitive skin and some have thick skin. So if you're brushing your horse with a hard rubber brush or a curry comb and he jerks and flinches away from you, go to a softer, easier brush on him and he'll enjoy his grooming time much better. Be sure that you don't leave any part of your horse ungroomed. When grooming your horse's face, go very slow and deliberately. You don't want to reach your brush up and scare your horse. Gently go for his face area and brush with the direction of his hair. When you're ready to spray your horse, you don't want to stand right in front of him and spray at his head. This frightens horses. So get your spray ready, pump it up, and begin spraying on his legs. This will help him become accustomed to the spray and be much more accepting. Once he accepts it on his front legs, move to his back legs and spray. Then you can spray his undercarriage and move up on his shoulder, back, rump, and neck area. Now that you've sprayed your horse's body, you need to put fly spray on your horse's head. Never spray your horse in the face. Get yourself a mitt or a rag and put your spray on it and gently apply it to your horse's face. Now, if you reach right up towards his nose or face, it's going to make him hold his head up and try to get away from you. So if you'll just gently approach him, even start from the bottom, rub on his jaw until he doesn't mind, and then go up to his forelock. Come to this side and rub on his jaw, and then gently go up between his eyes. Be careful never to get your fly spray in your horse's eyes as it really burns. Remember, if your horse has a severe wound, do not medicate it until the vet arrives. What you do is keep it clean. Use cold running water on the horse's wound, and if it's a severely bleeding area, put a pressure bandage on it. Take a piece of cotton or a clean piece of towel, press it up against the horse's bleeding area, and lightly wrap the area until the vet comes. If it's not heavily bleeding, just keep it clean until the vet gets there. If, however, we're talking about a small wound that does need some type of doctoring, then we need to consider making ourselves a vet kit. The type of things that we need to keep in the vet kit will be vet wrap, stay cold packs for horses that get swelling or bleeding areas, wound dust to stop small bleeding wounds, to clot the blood, Scarlex, Quick Clot, blue lotion. Another product that's handy to have around is Epsom salts for horses that have swollen legs because of standing too long in a stall or having been ridden a little hard in one day. You can just dissolve a little Epsom salts in water and soak your horse's leg in it, and that'll help him out a lot. The next primary consideration is supplying water for the horse. The amount of water a horse will drink very much depends on the climate and the use of the horse. But they will drink anywhere from 3 to 8 gallons of water a day. It's real important to check your horse's waters and make sure that the tops are not freezing over, that your horse indeed has free access to water. Horses will not break a thick ice crust to drink, nor will they drink out of a hot object to have water. One of the most important things to remember is keep your waters full. You never want to walk into your horse's corral, stall, or pasture and find that their water is empty and the horse has been left without free access to water. Also, do not give a horse free access to water or feed directly after a hard work. It's okay if you're working your horse and it's a hot day and you both need to take a drink and you continue to work or ride your horse, or if you're finished with your work program and your horse is hot and thirsty, you want to give this horse a drink, allow them to take a drink, but continue to walk the horse until he is completely cooled.